Hi. Uh, Today I'd like to look at one of my games that was played many years ago, about 14 years ago, and I analyzed it again and I found some fresh ideas, so I'd like to share those. I was playing with the black pieces, um, and here I ended up being on the slightly wrong side of the attack because um, white delayed castling, and by virtue of doing that, um, he now has the option of castling queenside, and my pawns here will be under attack, and I have weakened my pawn structure in a couple of ways. So opposite side castling here really gives white a fairly easy plan of playing on the king side, and he was playing quite well up to a point. He delivered this sacrifice that is quite interesting, maybe unnecessary, but still quite interesting. And he came out attacking. Um, my king ended up being boxed in the corner, um, and white had many ways to develop the attack here. He chose after f6. He chose this interesting way of giving up a knight, and then, of course, he must have assumed that I would well, try to hold on to the material, and here it's imperative that black does not take back on h6, because if he does, he gets mated. It's also imperative that black does not try to keep the exchange. So in this position, I'm still alive, but white has very strong pressure on the h file, and things are looking quite dangerous. Um, this is probably the turning moment in the game. If white doesn't come up with something really quickly in the next couple of moves, the position is easier to play for black with his two bishops. White's pawns are a bit disjoint, and unless the play on the h file materializes into something specific, black will be okay. And this is actually what happened in the game. Here white played a rather casual move, queen to d3, which is very natural. It aims to protect the c4 pawn, which black had just attacked. It also, prepares to swing the queen to h3, and yet it's a bad move. Because while this move serves a couple of useful purposes, there was even a better move that white had to find. And this is the highlight of this game, the most interesting part of this game that I'd like to share. So the key features of the position are such that white should aim to do several things. Transfer the queen to the h file, somehow through d3 or through h3. Eventually, at some point, he will also transfer the rook to the h file, and then he will have, with three pieces on the h file, he'll have threats of rook h6, of rook h8, rook g7, these kind of ideas. The other feature of the position is that while white has this pawn on g6, that pawn, if unsupported in the endgame, it will eventually collapse. On the other hand, if it is supported, it's a very strong pawn. If white has attack against the king, this pawn will be very helpful for that attack. So white should aim to support that pawn if he can. And the other thing is that the black king is still vulnerable, and if any diagonals can open up against that king, or any files can open up against the king through g5 or through some other ways, that can help white's attack in this position of dynamic and material balance. And the key move here, instead of queen to d3, I guess I'll just show how the game ended. Just gradually black consolidated, hid the king on f8, and after this rather desperate breakthrough, it turned out that white still has nothing. And here I managed to set up the blockade on the dark squares, activate my pawn center, and the bishops are stronger here. White has just very few hopes, and eventually, as I opened up the position, for the bishops, the game kind of quickly end it. Right, this comes with check, and now I just collect another pawn, and then the e3 pawn is unstoppable. The pawn is just too dangerous. So to avoid this kind of slow collapse, white should have here played pawn to f4, and this would have given white a very good position. This carries several ideas. If white just if black just naively takes on c4 after queen c3 and then the bishop retreats, the bishop just has to leave that very important diagonal, and after queen to h3 it's just impossible to stop rook h1 and the rook sack. The king is truly boxed here. The bishop is not defending the king anymore. This is horrible. This is exactly what white should be aiming for, supporting this g pawn and using the pawns to help his attack, to push away the black pieces temporarily. So that is really the point behind this move. So of course after f4 black has to play a bit more precisely, and he probably he can try to take. The white builds up on the h file and say if the bishop takes, white can take here, and now he's ready to transfer the queen to h2, for example in this line. Now the threat is rook h8 with mate, so black has to run, but here white finds another idea. This exchange sacrifice is extremely powerful, and the problem is that if the king takes, then it's mate like this, and if the queen takes here, it is really helpful that the diagonals had opened up, and here white wins like this, because the bishop is under attack, and actually, how does white win here? I'm guessing something around rook h8 here should wrap up the game, or g7. Get some help from the computer. So rook h8, and if bishop here, oh yeah, of course. So white wins like this. So with this move, pawn to f4, white would have posed very serious problems for me that I probably would not be able to solve, and instead a natural move like queen d3 just let the initiative drift away to black, and white was eventually punished.